This program was produced by and first broadcast on Radio Kidnappers, a community access media station. Thanks to New Zealand On Air for making this type of programming possible.
You're tuned to Radio Kidnappers, the voice of Hawke's Bay. This is the Acupuncture On Air program. It's our pleasure, as always, to have on the hot seat Heiko from the Acupuncture Clinic in Hastings. How you going, Heiko?
I'm really good, Ken, and you?
Oh, can't complain. All the better for seeing you.
Yeah, did you have to get the frost off the car this morning again, or?
Well, it wasn't quite a frost in Napier where I live, but as I was driving to work, see a lot of cars were covered in white. So, yeah, I mean, old man winter's coming, isn't he?
Yeah, no, definitely for me. It was getting the old ice off the windows.
And what else has been good? Been getting plenty of business?
Yeah, everything's been good there.
That's
and
great.
I'm looking forward to the start of the show because we finished last week's show with the talking about blind faith and
Yes.
Rick Gretsch, the sort of famous bass player of blind faith. But what actually happened to him in the end? Have you had a chance to?
Yeah, I had a look at old Rick Gretsch, and he retired, believe it or not, retired from music back in 1977, moved back to Leicester in England, where he came from, and reportedly became a carpet salesman.
Right, okay.
And sadly, in 1990, he died of renal failure. He was only 43 years old, and apparently that was a result of alcohol addiction.
Right.
So there you go.
That's sad. It happens to so many musos, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like we can have a whole show for a whole day about all the ones who have succumbed to drugs and ended because of the problems.
But I suppose, you think, wow, really famous guitarist in a famous group, knew all those famous people. I suppose he was probably the most famous carpet salesman in Leicester. Anyway, today we're going to talk about anemia. Now, I can't understand why there is so much going on about anemia. It's just about iron pills, or even better, just eating a nice steak. Wouldn't it cure it?
Yeah, well, the thing is that there's sort of subclinical anemia, and then there's serious anemia. And some people, I think, they can get a bit anemic, and as you said, they have a few steaks, and then they start to feel better. But other times, it can be a symptom of a more serious problem.
I mean, what is anemia? I suppose we better tell people what it is.
Well, it's basically just, you find it with a blood test or whatever, is that the iron levels in the blood are low.
Yes.
And then that can give you various types of symptoms, and one of them often is paleness. People say, you're looking anemic.
Yes.
That was with that saying coming. They're looking a bit pale, and then with that they can be a bit tired. They can be a bit weak. They might get palpitations. They do some exercise or a little bit of exercise. They get shortness of breath. They get palpitations, and they may not be able to sleep. They can get numbness. They can get tingling, and so it's a whole host of symptoms that goes with it.
Yeah, more to it than meets the eye.
That's right, and of course, I think women statistically are more prone to it, and that's because of the menstrual cycle. And I think in the ideal world, if the woman is perfectly healthy and the cycle is always on time, and the bleeding is not too much and not too little, then they have the right foods and nutrition and everything to go after the cycle to keep the body in harmony. They don't have any anemic signs, but commonly many women will get anemia because of a history of heavy bleeding, and as you can imagine, the whole iron, everything is leaking out.
Yeah. Now, of course, we're talking about acupuncture, Chinese herbs, moxibustion, and these all go back 3,500 or 5,000 years because they come from the ancient China. But of course, the Chinese back then wouldn't have had a blood test with us. So what did they call anemia? How did they know what anemia was?
Yeah, well, again, you see, the Chinese medicine, in terms of its diagnosis, has what we call deficiency states, and there's four main types of deficiency. One is blood deficiency, one is qi or energy deficiency, and then deficiency of yin and deficiency of yang. And in terms of the diagnostic symptoms of blood deficiency, it's very, very closely related to anemia. You have all the classic signs of paleness and tiredness and palpitations and can't sleep and so forth. But what you'll find is that in terms of the Chinese medicine term, blood deficiency, it doesn't always mean that they are anemic.
Right.
But it's also the other way around too in terms of Chinese medicine. Sometimes a patient has been and had a blood test and they've been shown that they have anemia, but they don't have all the other signs of classic Chinese blood deficiency. And so it's sort of it's not like a clear cut. You can't say one is the other, but certainly Chinese medicine would look at that the diet and food can influence the blood deficiency. And what's a bit different to the Western thinking, Chinese medicine has always put that chicken or white meat is better for blood deficiency.
Really?
And whereas Western medicine has said, well, a good, as you mentioned, a good steak with the blood in it or whatever is for the iron deficiency. So we have to have a look at all the other different signs and symptoms.
Is that still the same train of thought in China, that you eat chicken or white meat as opposed to us eating red meat?
Well, it's if from a Chinese point of view, if there's blood deficiency, they will say chicken.
Yeah.
And but also, of course, there's many herbs that treat blood deficiency. And what you find that the difference is that in anemia, the treatment is iron pills or iron in some form for the patient to take to build up the iron in the blood. Whereas Chinese medicine, it's different herbs to treat different aspects of the symptoms that you get with blood deficiency. Like for example, one of the symptoms you can have with blood deficiency is insomnia, can't sleep. But the herb for that might be the longan fruit. Another symptom of blood deficiency might be cramps, right? So then the symptom for the herb for that is a herb called mu gua, which is a type of a skin of a melon. Another symptom of blood deficiency might be menstrual problems, menstrual cramps. So the herb for that is dongguai, angelica root. So if you think about it, there's different symptoms that you can get for this overall picture, but then some of the herbs are specialised, whereas Western medicine will say, anemia is this, blah blah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 symptoms, but the treatment, everything is the same. It's always iron.
And you have all those herbs in stock?
Well, yeah, I have all those herbs in stock, but I mean, again, it's not like one simple herb that I give, so there's no point to sort of ring me and say, I'm anemic and my symptom is this, which herb for that. We still have to look at the overall picture of the patient and all the other signs and symptoms, because, you might be energy deficient and yin deficient and your liver energy might be blocked, and, you might have, a condition we might say dampness in the digestion from too much greasy food. So all those things are taken into account to give you a specific tailor-made treatment, including the acupuncture.
I was going to say, is herbs the main treatment for anemia, or would you use the needle as well, or instead of herbs, or?
Again, it's probably both. But with me being a herbalist, probably being biased towards that, I think for a deficiency state, I think herbs are the superior treatment, because it's a bit like if the milk has been poured out of the bottle, right?
Yeah.
The only way to get it back in is to pour it back in.
Yep.
And that's the same as sort of with Chinese medicine. Once the body is deficient, right, and it's weak, it's empty, right, you need to supplement that, put the stuff back in, and we can do that with herbs. Whereas the acupuncture, what it tends to do, it treats the deeper down underlying mechanism to produce the energy and to make the blood, but that can take a lot longer in terms of time.
Sure. And
so that the symptoms will be hanging around for too long. So usually then I would say, look, the acupuncture is good. We get back to the root cause and treat why you're getting the anemia, but we need to get that deficiency back up, balanced again as quick as we can.
If we wind the clock back just a little bit to a bit earlier on the chat, you mentioned
about Rick Gretsch.
Not quite that far, just a bit after him. Yeah. You mentioned about women and their menstrual cycle.
Yeah.
So the herbs would, in particular, women, would they be taking the herbs every month?
No. It's when the woman comes in and then they've got a specific imbalance, or whatever. We aim to sort of restore that imbalance, and then once that's been restored, their menstrual cycle should be regular and normal without clotting, without too heavy bleeding, and be regular and so forth. There are certain herbs and that we sort of classify as food/herbs that I think are more important for women to take after the menstrual cycle. Mm-hmm. And Chinese women culturally, they tend to know about these herbs.
Yes.
And so that, after the menstrual cycle, they might actually have some angelica root cooked with some red dates with some chicken as a soup, and they might do that for 3 days after the menstrual cycle. Whereas in the West, it's a bit like, it's normal, you can just go out, you've had your menstrual, just keep doing your triathlons and running and swimming in cold water and do everything as if nothing has happened. But, in the end, it does actually have its toll on the body.
Now, you have mentioned it before, but just remind us about the 3-leg mile.
The 3-leg mile, that's the name of an acupuncture point, and its Western name is called stomach 36 because it's on the stomach meridian, which is below, and the point is below the knee. But its traditional name is translated to Jusan Li, which means 3-leg mile, and it has that classic reputation is that you used to be able to treat that, and then you'd have enough energy and more strength so that you could walk an extra 3 miles at the end of the day.
So I can have some of that.
Well, as I said, I know that you do your running and everything like that, but at one stage when I was practicing Sydney, I used to see a lot of professional runners and marathon runners, and before their competition was coming up, so it was on a Saturday, they might start seeing me 2 weeks before the competition, maybe coming in like 3 times a week, and I would do that point with acupuncture and moxibustion, as well as maybe other points. And, they all used to swear by it that it just used to strengthen them and improve their times. So we could do that for you, and then you could, I
wonder, though, just on that point, I did read an article, and I do, we recently spoke about the fact that I and Lara from work here, we ran the half marathon.
Yep.
And I was reading an article prior to doing the marathon that's saying that you might not feel 100% for about a month after
the marathon.
The run. Yeah, that's right. And I thought, a lot of rot.
Yeah.
And it's true.
Right.
Yeah, I sort of felt, not that I couldn't go running, but I didn't feel 100%. So if I had had the 3-leg mile acupuncture treatment, would I have felt better moving on after that race?
Look, I guess that's hard to. The only test would be is that next time the half marathon's on, we'd have to
have the 3-leg.
Then I think intuitively you would know. But you think it makes sense. Like, I mean, you've put your body through a great big long stress that's out of the norm.
Yeah.
And it's probably no different if when I talk to patients who they come down and they've had a history or something, and then I backtrack. When did it start? And, I was working then in this thing, and I was working really long days. I was doing 7 days a week, 18 hours a day, for 3 months. And then I think it was after that I got run down.
Yeah.
And so when you sort of think, and it's no different to sort of say, you've just run, how long is the marathon? 20 Ks or whatever it is, So, I mean, it's a big toll on the body of, the sweat and everything getting out of the body, and it's as I said, it makes very good sense. That
it does. So do you get a lot of people come to see you before running races to get that 3-leg mile treatment?
Not here.
No.
I used to do it in Sydney, and that might be because they don't know about it or whatever. So it's one of those things that slowly can educate out there the benefits of acupuncture for sports performance.
Yeah. And that fixes up your anemia too, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Just about out of time. We're going to finish up with another fabulous song, no doubt.
Yeah.
But before we get to that, just remind our listeners, want to come and see you for some treatment or some help with anemia. How do we do that?
Yep, I practice in Hastings. You can go to my website, which is acu123.co.nz, and also my colleague John down in Masterton. He's got a practice down there. You can have a look on the website. There's lots of information about acupuncture and how it works and the different conditions that it may be able to help with. And the song to finish, I thought we'd finish with a bass player. And the reason I actually picked Bill Wyman, as we said, we all know him, of course.
Who wouldn't know Bill Wyman?
Bill Wyman. And because he's recently just released his movie or produced the movie. He didn't direct it, but I think he produced it. and it's called The Quiet One, which is about him and his life with the Rolling Stones for the 30 years, whatever that he was with them. And he did a solo album, I think it was 2015, and the song I've chosen from that, it's called Stuff. Can't Get Enough.
Can't Get Enough. I've got this song right here, but before we get this, just a couple of bits of trivia that you might not know about Bill Wyman. His real name is Bill Perks Jr., born the same year as you, Heiko, born in 1936. He was bass guitarist for the Rolling Stones from 62 through to 1993, and since 97 he's recorded with his own band called Bill Wyman's Rhythm Kings. He started selling metal detectors, of all things, in 2007. He has co-written books. He's a keen photographer, and he quit smoking after 55 years in 2009. And in March 2016, it was announced that he'd been diagnosed with prostate cancer, but was expected to make a full recovery.
And I have read that he has made the full recovery.
That is great news.
And I read with the movie, the reason that with the movie they used his voice overdubs and shot the scenes from behind him. Because he'd had a lot of steroid treatment with the treatment, which made his face very, very puffy.
Yeah.
And either the director or he thought we didn't want that
to look
up
like
front.
That. Yeah, fair enough too. I'd be the same, wouldn't you?
You would.
Here it is. Good on you, Heiko. Pleasure as always. Talk to you same time, same place next time.
Okay, all the best. Cheers.
This program was produced by and first broadcast on Radio Kidnappers, a community access media station. Thanks to New Zealand On Air for making this type of programming possible.